There were noises in the hallway. Laserwolf took point while Shield Maiden crept slowly towards the right side wall and towards the archway. When she reached the side of the walkway, she nodded to him. The giant robot dog walked cautiously forward, both shoulder cannons and both arm cannons deployed. The destroyed hall greeted them. The columns were destroyed, and bits of stone and brickwork laid everywhere around them. The tracks went halfway down the hall, up the wall, and across the ceiling. It was quiet. Then there was a skittering in the dark. It was too loud to be one of the benefactor's secret spiders. Laserwolf's visor flicker-flashed a few times. The scanning light swept one way, then the other. His aim snapped upward, and all four beams of light fired in a fantastic array of heat and light. Something screeched in the dark, slamming into the ground from the ceiling in a cacophony of endless hairy legs and long body parts. It righted itself like a rolling snake, and then reared up with a screech. Shield Maiden gave a cry of horror, lifting her shield in case it should attack. It was enormous. Laserwolf's four cannons fired wildly, making it screech and flail and lose a few legs in the process. Like a nightmarish spaghetti noodle, it slurped into another archway and out of sight. Come, I have already injured it. Laserwolf's hydraulics squealed back and forth as he took off into a quick trot. He clanked down the hallway with his massive weight. Speed was not his forte. He crested the archway, but the beast was already waiting. It grabbed him up in its many hairy legs, rearing up like a cobra. Laserwolf fired another barrage as it brought him up to its face. The robot wolf saw its head was snake-like, but upside down. Then the fangs. The fangs were backwards and yellowed. Its pupils expanded to take him in, and it screamed when Laserwolf blasted its eyes instead. Flailing, it smashed him against the walls, against the floor, and then flung him back out into the hallway with a crash. Laserwolf's jetpack ignited, and he aimed himself like a missile right back into the fray. The creature was pushed back by the impact, but used his momentum and sent him crashing into a stone wall. The white metal superhero lay there for a moment, as though stunned. Shield Maiden finally regained her wits and flung herself forward. This wasn't some psycho in body armor. This was a full-on monster, like a centipede with tarantula legs and a snake head. Leaving the unconscious Anubis behind, she charged onto the scene to bring her shield down like a hammer. Hairy legs went everywhere, and she was caught up in them. She aimed for knees and bends in its limbs, shouting with effort as she snapped 6 of them off in only a few swings. The creature roared, throwing its body around Shield Maiden like a constricting snake. She wriggled, clenching her teeth. It hissed and reared up, displaying its backward fangs in a strange reverse pose. Another blue blast of heat and light struck the monster, sending it off balance. Laserwolf was recovering, quickly rising to his feet. Shield Maiden wrenched herself free and Lutz jumped like a skater from one section of its segmented body onto the next. Its fangs flashed behind her, ready to take half her body with it. She closed her eyes. The fangs never came. Reading the breeze that came with the monster's movement, she leapt into a single axle and landed elsewhere on it. Its countless legs flailed, but she stayed on its back. Flow around it, she thought as she gracefully bent about the monster's next strike. She spun on the toe of her boot, touching the monster's head lightly as it lanced past her again and bit itself. It screeched, turning again and folding its body to try and snatch her. Gripping the strap of her shield hard, Shield Maiden turned a spin jump into a hammering blow in the center of its face. The monster roared as bits of its carapace splintered off from the attack. Its jaws opened in 4 directions, and it screamed at her, twin forked tongues lashing about like whips. Shield Maiden leapt away as Laserwolf peppered it with blasts, but wasn't quick enough. Its long tongue wrapped around her ankle and launched her into the air. Shield Maiden bounced off the ceiling, stunned, and it snapped her up in its massive jaws. She didn't even have time to scream. Shield Maiden, Laser Wolf roar growled robotically. Flesh and mucus pressed in around her. The world was dark. It hadn't even chewed her, just swallowed her whole. She thrashed about, but the passage constricted and her shield bashed against the side of her head. Stunned, she limpened. She couldn't see. She couldn't breathe. A needle-thin beam of light swept past her field of vision. Green slime sprayed in all directions. She fell through the open air and splatted onto the ground in a heap. She moaned, coughing a few times. The head of the monster lay next to her, and its twitching body slowly stilled. There was silence. Click-pop. A tiny piece of metal jettisoned itself from Laser Wolf's arm like a spent bullet shell. A tiny laser gun on his arm hissed. He stood there for a long time, studying the corpse. When he was sure that it was dead, all his panels closed and his arm cannons folded up. They hissed as they were flooded with coolant. With a whine of hydraulics, Laser Wolf waded into the spreading pool of disgusting innards. He picked her up and propped her against the wall, the blue light scanning. She was cut and bruised, but not dead. She was breathing freely. He prodded her in the ribs a little until she finally stirred. "Did we get him?" she said softly, leaning on her side to look around. "Yes," Laser Wolf said. "Decapitated." "We have to—" Shield Maiden stopped when a sickly green light bathed the room. Laser Wolf wheeled around, cannons redeploying. They dripped with coolant. It pulsed slowly like a radioactive glow. The monster twitch-flailed a few times. The pulsing grew faster. It gagged up its own organs out of its neck hole. Pulsed faster. An amniotic sac bloomed on the end of its severed neck, and then burst with new life. It had grown a new head. Shield Maiden blurted a swear word in terror. Laser Wolf snatched her up and barreled around the corner as the beast struggled to its feet. It roared itself alive, mouth opening in all directions like a Lovecraftian flower. Okay, it grows back. We just need a new plan." Shield Maiden leaned against the wall when he set her down, a little disoriented. There was an avalanche of stone and mortar as the beast tore from the room, through a wall, and out into the world beyond, outside the benefactor's house. Pavement split and piping sprayed water in all directions as it forced its way through the street, through the pavement, and underground and out of sight. Laser Wolf charged to the huge hole, standing and scanning the area. It was gone. "The situation has worsened," Laser Wolf said slowly. Shield Maiden leaned weakly against the wall and then slumped slowly back down onto her butt. I gotta get up. Hang on. Gonna get up," she said a little blearily. She sagged. Being eaten like that had sapped her entirely. "You are injured." Laser Wolf looked to the monster's hole in the street, then her, then the hole again. There was a short silence. A little transmitter popped out of his shoulder like a tiny satellite dish. It spun about a few times. Phones everywhere across the city buzzed. That included the one in the hallway and the one in Shield Maiden's leg pouch. It was a battle alarm. "Attention! A large unknown creature is loose in the sewers of the city. Civilians are advised to stay away from waterways and any large sources of moving water. Laser Wolf is in pursuit. Please avoid all major roadways and report to safety bunkers if available." The signal had been sent. At least the general populace would know now. Police and emergency services would be on standby. "Remain here. I will pursue the creature," he said, turning away to give chase. He stepped quickly out of the home of the benefactor to the gigantic hole in the street and hopped down. There was a splash. Then, a flash of color as his jetpack ignited and he rocketed away. The sound faded with distance. Shield Maiden was left all alone in a spreading puddle of slime and innards. She slowly turned her head. Bastard just left me here. Or is it bitch? She mumbled, remembering that Laserwolf's pilot was, in fact, a woman. Oh well, if Laserwolf was portrayed as a male robot, then she would keep saying he until she met the pilot. Bitch. Dog superhero. Bitch. I'm gonna write that down. Shield Maiden groaned and turned over. She felt like garbage, like something more had happened to her body when she'd been swallowed. It hadn't digested her, even her outfit was fine. She just felt like all the energy had been sucked out of her. She felt so weak. Letting go of her heavy shield and leaving it there, Shield Maiden crawled back into the hallway. The look-away spells that covered the building would keep her safe from curious civilians, thankfully. She is gonna be so mad when she gets home. Shield Maiden leaned against the wall, leaving a long trail of slime as she went. Oh God, what is that smell? She mumbled. Then she put her nose to herself. It was her. She passed the severed head, which, thankfully, hadn't sprouted its own body, and walked away. What are you looking at? She said to the bizarre snake-like face. She stumbled and then staggered forward as though drunk. Oh, God, my head, she said, holding herself. Her vision wavered. She made it out into the main common area and then staggered and fell. She used the last of her strength to turn over on her back. She stared at the high ceiling. Up on the highest shelf, shimmering like a treasure, was the ornate bottle. Just a drop, and she'd be back to normal. She reached at it from where she lay, and then her hand fell. She felt so dizzy. Dog-like claws clicked across the marble flooring. They stopped next to her. A ghostly white jackal man leaned over her. Hello? Are you dead this time? Anubis can eat you, yes? He wanted to know. She stared at him blearily. Hadn't he been black before? Her thoughts were muddled and she moaned at him. Oh, not dead. Can't eat you then. No. He eyed her up and down, weakened, slimy, and beat up. Not that you look appetizing to Anubis. No. He startled when her hand lifted again, blearily reaching for something she couldn't have. He followed the angle of her arm with his eyes. What's that? He looked up at the bottle sitting on the high shelf. Thin at the top and fat at the bottom, it was etched with silver and strange runes. You want that? He pointed with a pale hand. Standing curiously, Anubis climbed the shelves. Passing books and other curiosities, he snatched the bottle from its resting place and came back down. He turned it over and over, looking for a label. There were only incantations on it. Power. He read the runes aloud. They were arranged oddly and hard to transcribe into a spoken word. Power? That's vague. A power potion? That's like something a child would make up. Yes. He rolled his eyes. She moaned at him again, louder this time. All right, if it will shut you up. Yes. He knelt down, unscrewing the cap. The underside of the bottle's cap was a dropper. Clearly, it was meant to be given in very small amounts, whatever it was. He blinked a few times, and then shrugged and tossed it over his shoulder. Here you go. Yes. Anubis put the bottle to her mouth and lifted her head. A full swallow of the mystical liquid. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shield Maiden's body seized up like she was having an epileptic episode. Anubis dropped her, startled. The bottle tumped over and he quickly grabbed it before it spilled all over the carpet. The rug ignited where a few drops had spilled. Holy shit! Anubis said, jumping back and clutching the bottle. He stamped out the flames before they spread. Shield Maiden's arteries and veins suddenly glowed horrifically. She screamed, her body straightening out spasmically. Her skin ignited into a sheen for a moment. Her eyes spilled molten light, and when she opened her mouth to scream again, she sprayed another beam of light towards the ceiling like a fucking searchlight. Too much. It had been too much. Her body roiled and she thrust herself onto her hands and knees, vomiting wildly all over the carpet. "There weren't any instructions. No," Anubis said, backing against the wall in horror. She began to glow brightly. Shield Maiden desperately gripped the side of the raised koi fish pond. The wood splintered in her hands. She fell forward, holding her head with both hands. She stopped glowing. She tried to get up. Her heart was going at 1,000 miles an hour. She crawled slowly, steam rising from her shoulders as her body fought itself inside and out. She twitched and spasmed and then vomited again, holding her stomach. She found a couch, throwing an arm over it to have something to hold herself. The world was spinning like the worst case of drunkenness she had ever had, 10 times over. She gripped the couch to keep from falling off of the earth itself. Her vision tilted and she fell onto her back, sprawled out and panting. There was quiet. She lay there with her eyes closed, panting rapidly like she'd just run a race. Anubis stood there for over a minute, staring at her. She wasn't moving. Are you dead now?" he said cautiously. "Did Anubis kill you?" He saw her chest rising and falling. "Not dead," he said slowly. Setting the bottle on the coffee table, he went to all fours and leaned over her. "Hello?" he said, perking his ears at her. She smelled like sweat, and he could hear her heart beating. Her veins and arteries flashed brilliantly again under her skin. He jumped back a little, but she didn't move. He leaned down to sniff her more closely. Shield Maiden grabbed his whole muzzle with one hand, eyes snapping open. "What did you do to me?" she roared. "Anubis gave you what you wanted. Yes." Her hand was slick with sweat, and that was the only reason he could squirm free. Shield Maiden sat up hard. She felt light, like she'd just woken up from a long sleep on a Saturday morning and was laying in a sunbeam somewhere. So light. She looked down at her hands. She looked at the bottle on the coffee table. She swallowed a little. "How much?" she whispered, looking over at him. You swallowed like, Anubis doesn't know, like 5 times." "5 swallows?" Shield Maiden said, holding her hair in both hands in a panic. "5 swallows?" Yes, Anubis said. Her stomach suddenly roared and she moaned, holding herself. Her metabolism was taking off like a fucking rocket. Her body was already at work. She'd taken some of the benefactor's stuff. She'd never named it. Shield Maiden thrust herself to her feet and quickly reported to the kitchen area that shared the same great room space with the living area and the koi fish pond. She rushed to the fridge before she passed out from hunger. She tore the refrigerator door right off of its hinges without meaning to, hauling the appliance forward several inches. "Shit," she said in a small voice. She grabbed anything that wasn't wrapped. Falling to her knees and not knowing what else to do, she stuffed her face. Apple, orange, bread, more bread, jam, don't eat the lid, onion, spaghetti leftovers. That might have been chicken, she wasn't sure. A whole stick of butter. Anubis approached her from behind, frowning curiously with perked ears. Should Anubis just go, or... An apple core rolled past his foot. He picked it up, looked at her, and then ate it himself. He watched her viciously pig out, and then just as suddenly rush to her feet and run towards another doorway and slam it behind herself. He made to follow, but the sounds beyond were a bit too personal. Then she rushed out and back to the fridge again. "This is just bizarre to watch, but Anubis can't tear his eyes away. No." The white meta-creature watched her go from fridge to bathroom 3 or 4 times before she started to finally slow down. Exhausted, Shield Maiden slumped onto a couch to sweat and shake. "Oh, God," she said, wiping her brow with her arm. Too much," she said, panting a little. "Anubis does not understand." He tilted his head at her, then very suddenly spotted himself in the mirror on the wall. He gave a loud, shrill yelping sound and rushed over to it, touching his face and nose. "Anubis is white. That means—" He scrubbed at his abs and belly a few times. "The beast is loose." He whirled around, but he only saw Shield Maiden resting her head in her hands. "Foolish girl. Yes, foolish girl. Which way is the exit? Tell Anubis. He must recapture the burdened." "The what?" Shield Maiden said a little blearily. "The burdened. The beast trapped within Anubis's body. Yes." He pointed at his own belly like it was the most obvious thing. "Is that what that was?" She was slowly gathering her wits, shaking her head a few times. "You are too slow. Anubis's body held the beast. That is why he goes from place to place. A prison that is always moving cannot be broken into or out of, so long as Anubis keeps weaving spells around it." "That's what all those tattoos and markings were for," Shield Maiden said slowly. "My benefactor was right. Ugh, you are a cage." "Now it is loose," Anubis said, scrubbing at his head. "Foolish girl. You must help Anubis. Yes, help him seal it up again in his body so it does not murder and rampage." "How do we do that?" Ugh. She tried not to puke a third time. "Find it. Beat it up. Let Anubis cast his death magic over it. Seal it up again." "Like Pokemon. Got it." "Like what?" "Like Pokemon, you know. Beat it up so it's weak and then capture it in a container." "What is Pokemon?" "Didn't your mother ever give you a Game Boy?" Shield Maiden said with a frown. "Anubis' mother gave him to cultists to be a vessel for an ancient beast," Anubis snarled angrily. All right. Shield Maiden tottered to her feet. The feelings of sickness and vertigo were finally starting to subside. She scrubbed at her hair a little. "I think I'm okay now. We just..." She did throw up a third time. "Okay. We have to follow Laserwolf into the sewers. That's where the beast went." "It is called the Burdened," Anubis corrected. "Why is it called that?" They walked quickly to the room with the hole in the wall. Anubis stared at the severed head while she reclaimed her shield. She did her best to clean it off. "Because that is exactly what it is. Burdened," Anubis said gravely. "Burdened with what?" You shouldn't ask." "No," Anubis decided. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the Burdened moved quickly and quietly from shadow to shadow. It had long since emerged from the sewers and lost Laserwolf in the many tunnels below the town. Its endless rows of hairy legs drummed in concert as it scaled a wall and slipped silently down a dark alleyway. It was almost midnight. Without a sound, it snatched up a sleeping homeless man. Small whistling sounds drew a prostitute into its jaws. A trio of party-goers only had a few moments to scream before being silenced. A man on a motorcycle never knew what hit him. It crawled up a wall and into the double window of an apartment building. There, it took a family of 5. It crawled out again. tilting its head at a drug dealer before shoving him down its gullet. Its body began to swell, and a set of stark white ribs began to sprout from its back. The flesh split open, revealing a cage-like pit just behind its head. All of its victims were there, lethargic and moaning, reaching through the rib cage with tiny hands, trying to escape. They were attached to the beast from the waist down. The cage held them fast. Such sweet suffering. Among the damned was Shield Maiden's benefactor. She swayed back and forth with all the others, bleary eyes seeing nothing but shapes, maybe color now and then. She reached out between the ribs, trying to find anything to pull herself free. But there was nothing. The burden stopped to sniff the air with its tongue, body lengthening as it consumed more. It nearly doubled in size, massive hairy legs sprouting out of its long centipede-like body. It reared up, greedily searching for more prey. A pizza delivery boy met an untimely fate. A couple, out for a late-night stroll, were pulled into darkness. A cross-dressing man squealed when he was taken too. A cab driver that had pulled over for a smoke had only a split second to look up before massive jaws closed over him. Each victim was bloodless, and each one was swallowed and deposited into the cage of ribs on the beast's back. It began to fill and get crowded in there. Such sweet suffering. Heavy hearts, guilt-laden consciences, broken dreams, harshly learned lessons, mental scarring, hardened senses of self, apathy. A little bit here, a little bit there, but as a group, the burdened could feed from them all. The purple and yellow one it had swallowed before losing its head had been surprisingly light, save for a broken heart. She would have taken up more room than she was worth. Clacking its jaws this way and that, it climbed a building to look about. It wanted to be high up, as not to be attacked so easily. It spotted a large metal framework spanning a wide river. Massive barges went this way and that, and a paddle-wheel boat floated idly nearby. The river ran in a lazy, southwesterly direction. The high vantage point was appealing. It rattled on its dozens of spider-like legs from rooftop to rooftop. People started noticing, and then the screaming started. It did not take Laserwolf long to hear the news over his internal police scanner. The beast was on the move. Emerging from a riverside pipe, he rocketed into the sky just as the burden was working its way up the Ohio River Bridge. He surveyed the scene, visor flicker flashing as he scanned. The monster had tripled in size in less than 6 hours. The traffic screamed to a halt under it as it situated itself on the beams of the bridge. Its tongue lashed this way and that, picking up anyone foolish enough to run under it. Cars overturned and smashed into each other, exploding into flame. Deploying his shoulder cannons, he flared his jetpack and dove down onto the scene.